Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on the Flyability and Sphere Drones webinar today. So we're just going to wait for a few more attendees to join us before we get started. Hey everyone, thanks for bearing with us while we waited for a few people to join us. So today we're going to be running through the newly released Flyability Elios 3. So we're pretty excited about that one here at Sphere. We've obviously worked with the Elios 1 and the Elios 2, the previous generations, and the Elios 3 is just heralded a new age of technology for flyability. So I guess the agenda for today, we'll do a quick little introduction. We've got a Sphere Drones presentation, something short there for you, and then we'll get stuck into the Elios 3, talk about the Elios 3 workflow, and then there's a very brief comparison to the Elios 2. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end as well. Feel free to ask your questions throughout the webinar, and we'll chat about them at the end. Yeah, so thanks for joining us. So before we get started, we just wanted to ask a quick little question of you all as to who is operating drones already, if you have an existing drone program. So there should be a poll opening up on your screen at the moment. So if you guys don't mind ticking the most appropriate box on your webinar poll there. So we're just wanting to understand, the split of the people on the webinar today as to who's operating under a REOC, who's operating under the excluded category, who's looking to start a drone program, and who doesn't have a drone program at the moment. and we'll wrap that one up there. So on the webinar today, you've got Paris Kokinos, who's the Sphere Drones Chief Executive Officer. He'll introduce himself in just a moment, and then you've got myself, who's the Chief Remote Pilot here at Sphere. So I'll get Paris to say a quick little hello.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining us on the webinar. No doubt between the team that will be presenting today, you'll learn a lot more about the Elios 3 and how revolutionary the product is. But for us as a business, we're really, really excited to be hosting this today and look forward to hosting more into the future.
Thanks, Paris.
So just to talk a little bit more about our background now, for some of you might be aware, we've been, as a business, Sphere Drones has been around since 2012. For long enough now, we've been trying to break the stigma of, hey, we're just a hardware sales and services business. That's a lot more than who we are and what we do. For us, we extend our offering out to a hardware and software development piece, to the point where in 2015, that's where our hardware development really was its inception. So we developed a water sampling system called Nero. At the same time, we moved into our office in Sydney, in Alexandria. A few years later, we started our journey in the software development side of things with Curo. So Curo is a fleet management solution specifically for all roving technologies, air, land, and water. There's a couple of exciting announcements that are coming forward in the coming months. But as time progresses, the expansion of our business stemmed so that we opened up an office in Perth with a team established over there to support a lot of the enterprise and commercial entities that are operating on the west coast of Australia. So our business is set up on the east coast, west coast. And shifting over into 2021, we as a business expand into the landborne and subsea environments. You would see it in amongst the works that we've done with Deep Trekker, the works that we've done with Boston Dynamics. We've got the team members that are established up in Queensland as well. In 2022, I guess it's kind of a pivotal year. For many of you, you might be aware, Rise Above is a business that's been around since the best part of 2011, 2010. We actually acquired Rise Above as an entity earlier this year, which is really, really exciting. So for us as a business, we're now delivering an end-to-end service on a united front as a business. Just a little bit more around our vision and our mission. So for us, our vision is really to enable and inspire individuals and organisations to realise their complete and their 100% potential of how roving technologies can impact their business. And again, our mission is more so towards how can we become more and more essential to our customers by providing not only products, not only services, but best-in-class software and use case realization services. So for us is how can we really work with enterprises to provide an unmatched offering that really drives the potential of organisations and their use of roving technologies, and that's what we're here today to do. Sorry. Just a little bit more detail around the industries we work in. We very much talk to the point that, hey, we're industry agnostic, solution agnostic, but customer centric. We work across a lot of industries as an organisation. With the nature of where the industry is going, there's the best part of 2,498 REC holders in Australia. They're spread across small, medium businesses, they're spread across mining, infrastructure, security, government, power and utilities, and much, much more. But for us, we're a industry agnostic business. As mentioned earlier, we've got team members located in Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, and Perth. We've got physical, tangible offices in Sydney and Perth. Our hardware development's located in Sydney, software development's located in Melbourne, and Perth has got our solution specialists and account management team over in WA. So us as a business, we're very well spread across the country, and it's exciting to be able to be in a position where we can support our customers across the country in totality. We've been in business for a long, long time, and in total, we've dealt with around 72,000 customers across Australia. And for us, we've got some key clients that we've worked with from inception, and some key partners that we've worked through inception. And more recently, we've taken on some new partners. So partners like Skydio, partners like Flyability, partners like Boston Dynamics. These premium and premier partners are solutions that we're bringing to the Australian market and supporting them onto an end-to-end position. Now, what you'll notice over the course of the next few months is there'll be some really interesting insights that we're bringing forward from a product development perspective across some of these unique vendors. And I really can't wait to deliver those insights to our customer base moving on into the time. As I said earlier, we're really trying to break the stigma of, hey, Sphere Drones is just a hardware and services business. Really, we've got an offering that stems a lot further than that. Not only can we sell you the hardware, not only can we repair and maintain the hardware, but we've also got the capabilities of delivering advisory services such as training, such as rentals, such as custom solutions, where we'll actually develop a custom solution for a unique, bespoke outcome that you guys are looking for. We do have two products that sit underneath our business, Curo being the roving technology fleet management solution that assists with compliance, but it does a lot more than that. The way it differentiates itself is it differentiates itself by simply being connected to Sphere Drones. Your traditional software companies, all they are software companies, but as some of you will be aware, connecting with industry experts and people that know the solution and dealing with their software probably will be a lot more of a tangible solution and a lot more tangible outcome for any organization. And yeah, at the end of the day, we know fleets are growing within organizations. Our capabilities stem from hardware, software, mechatronics, electronics engineers, all the way to customer service and support. So feel free to reach out if you've got any questions, but look, I'll move on to the next slide. Just a bit of insight. I've been working quite extensively on some market trajectory at the moment and where we're heading as an industry. This is a slide that I've been putting together myself for quite some time. I've spent the best part of the last 3 months putting it together and orchestrating it. But fundamentally, this is the unit economics that are augmenting our industry. So two things are fleets are growing. So the average fleet size today is 12 per REOC holder. And then industries are actually incubating these technologies. So some of the largest growing industries are sitting in and amongst the best part of your agriculture, in amongst the best part of your construction services, your mining, your utilities. Everyone is really taking that approach from a roving technologies perspective. Now, in totality, at present, I estimate there's around 33,000 drones in operation at present across Australia. By the time we get to 2030, there's going to be the best part of 110,000 drones in market. Now, for us, these are some really interesting statistics because we really then break it down by, okay, so what are the use cases of the 110,000 drones that are coming to market? Yep, sure, there's a confined space. Yep, sure, there's your photogrammetry solutions and your stockpile analysis. But really, once we start getting into 2030, we only know how far the industry's gone in the last 5 years, let alone what the next 5 years is going to look like. So some really exciting times ahead of us, and I was really excited to be able to share these sorts of insights with you. The source of this is there was a Deloitte article that came out in 2020. We're a data-centric business, and we've been working quite closely on our data structures and understanding our customer base, understanding the market, and have been able to take the Deloitte article from 2020 and align it with our data set. And this is what we believe the truth of the market is. So this isn't stuff that you'd be able to find straight off the shelf. We're going to go into another poll here before I hand over to Elliot and the team. So my journey with the Elios was started the best part of 6 years ago, which is really, really exciting. And this poll is specifically around, have you owned or have you operated an Elios drone already? So the first question is, I have owned or operated an Elios 1. B is I've owned and operated an Elios 2. I've not flown an Elios 2. An Elios, I have flown an Elios, or none of the above. So really just trying to understand and gauge an insight as to the market that we're presented with at the moment. We'll just wait a few more moments for a couple more people to submit their polls. The poll section is there on the right-hand side. Cool, and we'll close that off right now. So thank you very much, guys. And then the third poll here is, what are you most interested in learning about with the Elios 3? There's a range of new functionalities that are coming to fruition now in amongst the Elios 3, and there's more to come in the future. But the first one is improved stability. The second one is LiDAR payload. The third one is the future of modular payload support. And then the fourth one is real-time point cloud. So if you guys can take an answer at that, that would be fantastic. Wait for a couple more people to submit their poll questions there on the right-hand side. A couple more. Beautiful. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Elios, who's going to talk a little bit more around the Elios 3, and no doubt you'll reach out. For those that are interested as well, over the course of the next coming months, we're coming into a face-to-face environment with our customers across the country, between New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, even New Zealand, Tasmania, and over on the West Coast as well, and Northern Territory. So feel free to reach out if you are in one of those states. We're more than willing to connect and come and present the solutions. We're doing these sorts of roadshows with the likes of the Flyability Elios 3. We're doing it with the likes of the Yellow Scan LiDAR scanner, but then also the Skydio drone. So for us as business, really, the last 12 months the last 24 months has been the best part of lockdown. We've been caught up in incubating in our own little homes and our own little houses, and really we now want to get out and get back out to connect with our customers on a face-to-face. So please feel free to reach out, and thank you again, guys. For those that were interested, there was a couple questions. Hey, can I have a quick question if this was going to be recorded or not? And yes, this is going to be recorded, and this will be shared online at a later date. So thank you very much. I'll hand over to Elliot now. Thank you.
Thanks, Paris. So Flyability Elios 3. Thanks again for your responses there to the previous polls. It really helps us understand, who we're talking to and the kind of experience level and who's been exposed to these sorts of products already. So I guess in terms of the vision of the Flyability product is, they are striving to ensure that no more humans are doing dangerous jobs. So there's been numerous situations where they've put a drone into a situation where confined space entries are of course very hazardous. So being able to put a drone or a robot into that sort of environment is obviously very advantageous from a safety perspective. But also it means that you're able to be a lot more effective and efficient with that environment. So the benefit, of course, with the Elios 3 is being able to take the guesswork out of your maintenance operations in a safe, fast, and economical way. You can improve safety, you can reduce your downtimes, and it can reduce your expenditure from a operational perspective. So, being able to avoid the confined space entry and work at height during visual inspections. That's a bit of a no-brainer there. Reducing the downtime, of course, if you can put a drone into an asset instead of having to set up, scaffolding, etc., then it means that you can be a lot quicker. As well, if you had an incident where maybe there's an emergency response required, you can potentially put that drone into that environment and not have to wait for a crew to arrive, sort of thing. And then the lower costs, of course, the Elios 3 would pay itself off very, very quickly in a lot of situations. So, being able, again, that scaffolding environment can cost quite a lot of money to get set up, and potentially also take time as well. So, in terms of the key industries, some of the key industries that Flyability is kind of geared towards is industries like the power generation, oil and gas, mining, infrastructure and utilities, cement and chemical manufacturing. It's a non-exclusive list. The list is probably a mile long, but essentially anywhere where you might have issues with access, issues with safety, the Flyability unit can step on in. So the goal of the Flyability Elios 3 is to digitize the inaccessible. It's the ultimate indoor drone for inspection, mapping and surveying. You can quickly turn asset data into digital insights with the Elios 3, the first mapping and inspection indoor drone offering an unmatched combination of intelligence, versatility, and stability. So the Elios 3 is clearly a powerful data harvesting tool. So it's got a fly-aware SLAM engine on board. So that's the kind of the brains, I suppose, inside the Elios 3 that allows it to be a very, very powerful tool. It's got a SLAM-based stabilization. So that basically means that it's mapping its environment and operating within that space based off the information that it's measured. You can create a 3D live map with the Elios 3, which is a really convenient tool. It means that you have that insane situational awareness and that real-time awareness, basically, of the space that you're in. 3D reporting is, of course, something that's there from the point cloud perspective. If you're creating a 3D model of your environment, then it allows you to much more accurately and precisely identify where a defect is in a space, etc. With the Elios 3, there's also the option of having a 3D surveying solution. So if you wanted to be able to create a survey grade model of your environment, and that's a new capability with the Elios 3. It's got a modular payload base, so we will see more payloads come in time. At the moment, they've got within the flyability lineup, they've got the regular 4K video and thermal payload. There's also the Elios 2 radiation detection unit, and I expect that that'll probably be one of the first ones that comes to market, but there's also the potential for solutions like a non-destructive testing payload, etc. So, and of course, you do have the LiDAR unit on the back there in the picture there. The collision resilient and rugged design is something that's obviously been there from the get-go with the flyability products, so that'll be familiar to some of you. The close-up inspection dedicated payload, of course, is consistent. One neat feature of the Elios 3 is that they have extended the airtime a little bit. So you get up to 12 minutes if you're not using a LiDAR unit. So for those of you who aren't necessarily as concerned about the LiDAR payload capability, even just the improved flight time will be a bonus for you. But I think the real strength of the Elios 3 does come from that LiDAR unit being able to provide that insane level of detail. So you can see here, it's a little bit bigger than the previous generation of aircraft. It's a little bit wider. It's around the same height, at about that 38, 39 centimeters, but it's a little bit wider. So something to be mindful of if you are trying to squeeze into those really, really tight spaces. You will need around 5 centimeters either side of the unit to be able to navigate effectively in space. You can also see here that the weight's gone up a little bit. So it's 1.9 kilos without the payload, and 2.4 kilos is the maximum, and you're looking at about 2.3 kilos with the LiDAR unit attached there. So they've revised the propulsion system on the Elios 3. So it's low noise now, so it's 88 decibels. So you can actually fly it with a little bit less discomfort, I suppose. If anyone's flown the Elios 2 before, it is quite a noisy little unit. So it's something where the ducted motors there are a little bit more effective and efficient, and they've kind of changed the tone, I suppose, of the motors. They're a little bit less invasive. It's made for the toughest indoor environments, so it's water and dust proof. I'll touch on that one a little bit later as well. They've designed it to IP44 standards. They haven't got the certification on that one yet because it takes time, and it's obviously a very newly released product, but they've advised it as water and dust proof to IP44. Collision tolerant up to 2 meters a second, and then they've got a patent pending controller for collision recovery. So it's actually, it's quite impressive when you see it. You can actually fly into something, and because it's got these reversible thrust, like it's got the ability to reverse its thrust on the motors, it can actually hold its position very, very stably when it's on an angle, and it can also recover very, very well. So that's a really important function on the Elios 3, or the Elios lineup, I should say. And then the front payload, we're all relatively familiar with the 4K payload. They have improved the lighting here, so we are looking at up to 16,000 lumens now, which is kind of crazy, but 10,000 lumens is the standard kind of maximum brightness, and then if you want to go to that 16,000 lumens, then you just have to click the boost button. So essentially, the flyability Elios 3 is geared towards Industry 4.0. So being able to have that next generation, that next era of internal inspection and mapping. So Drone-based inspection is no longer a technology of the future. It's a necessity for today's digital, fast-paced world. With the fourth industrial revolution in motion, organizations are looking to deliver digital transformations of their industrial processes, making operations safer and more efficient. So Elios 3 helps industries effortlessly achieve these goals by giving them the best remote imaging and mapping capabilities. So the Elios 3 is powered by the FlyAware SLAM engine. So it's the unique combination of computer vision and LiDAR technology with a powerful NVIDIA graphic engine. So acting as a centimeter accurate indoor GPS, it obviously is designed to operate in GPS-denied environments. It builds a real-time 3D map and enables the drone to sense its surroundings instantaneously. So it's quite impressive when as you're flying along, before the drone's even taken off, it's already got an understanding of the operating environment that it's in. So today, FlyAware allows for groundbreaking stability and highly accurate locational awareness, but tomorrow it's the promise of complex confined space inspections performed in full autonomy. So I expect that the rollout of that will probably be something like, first stage might be something like, returning to home, flying back the way it came sort of thing. But I think the future state, it'll probably be something where, it can redo the flight that it did last time based on waypoints, or maybe autonomously exploring an environment. So I'm really excited to see how the flyability team goes with that. So one of the big benefits of the Elios 3 is it's just so stable in its operating environment. So they've got a new SLAM-based stabilization algorithm that catches the tiniest unpredictable movements of the drone and instructs the flight controller to compensate for it. So it allows the drone to float in the air, still as a stone, even in the toughest conditions. So it means that you really can put this in the hands of someone who's not particularly experienced or capable from a piloting perspective, and have them feel a lot more comfortable and confident with the operation of the drone. And then it just becomes a matter of them being there to ensure that the data quality is good and that the drone's safe in the event of an incident. So you can see here we've got the red field of view is actually the field of view of the LiDAR unit here. So you can see that it scans upwards and forwards and backwards and down. And so you just need to make sure that when you're flying around in a space that you're, to get good quality data, that you try and ensure that your LiDAR field of view covers the area correctly. And then, of course, you can see that there's the 3 fields of view of the vision sensors on the front there. So with the previous generation, they had a sensor on each corner for the Elios 2, and they've gone to only the front mounted sensors, which look upwards, forwards, and downwards for their vision positioning on this one. So I'm not sure how well this is going to translate across on the screen. I think that it's coming through okay, but you can see that on the left-hand side there, you had the Elios 2 on the left and the Elios 3 on the right. And on the right-hand side here, you can also see that the drone is performing very, very well in that dusty environment. So I'm going to play this one on the left again, because it's actually quite impressive to see, the stability of the Elios 3. And I think that this is something where, getting the Elios in front of people is one of the biggest advantages to really actually truly demonstrate how capable the Elios lineup is. And that's never been more profound than with the Elios 3. So you can actually drag if you grab the cage on the Elios 3, you can actually drag it away from its position, let it go, and it will snap back to the position where it was. So it's a very, very capable unit. And of course, the easier the drone is to fly, the better, the more you're able to focus on the data, which is obviously the most important part. So on the right-hand side here, you can see the cave exploration example. So this was conducted by the flyability team. You can see that it's a very, very testing environment. You can see that you've got that purple field, the purple trajectory that shows where the aircraft has been. So it means that you can see, you can have a lot more information about the operating environment that you're in. And that's also a very, like, testament to the capability of the unit. It's a very, very complex operating environment that drone is operating in on the screen there. So yeah, it means that you can operate the unit with a lot more confidence and faith in the product. So being, like I said, that locational awareness, being able to understand where you are in an operating environment and what's around you, helps identify hazards and things in flight, but also helps you make sure that you are getting the correct data. Knowing where you are, like I said, and then assess the inspection coverage as well. So being able to identify before you leave site that, you know, if you're creating a 3D model of an environment, if you can see in real time that you're missing information about, you know, a particular location in the operating environment, then you know that you need to go back and get a little bit of extra coverage of that space. So being able to understand where to focus your maintenance efforts. So in terms of the Elios 3, you know, being able to fly through an operating environment and identify defects is something that's, you know, relatively, it's been consistent across the board with the flyability products, but it's even easier and even more robust, and yeah, having that transparency is just critical. So the Elios 3 with the LiDAR unit is never made it, it's never been as easy as it is with the Elios 3. So you know, being able to fly through those really, really tight spaces and navigate through those environments is, yeah, a really important aspect of it. So you can see on the right-hand side here, this is a cyclone that was that's used in the cement industry. So that's a 3D scan. It's a survey grade, you know, model of that asset. So it means that you can fly in there and you don't have to necessarily worry as much about, you know, getting a detailed image of every single square centimeter of it, because the LiDAR unit's doing all of the work for you already. So there is benefit, of course, if you can get, you know, the imagery of that environment as well. But being able to gather all that data very quickly and easily and have it be very high quality is you know, amazing. So you can see here there's some more survey grade point clouds here. So we've got a hall with some cases here. We've got an ore pass and a salt mine gallery. So, you know, being able to operate the drone in these sorts of tight spaces is, you know, quite an important capability. And having that, you know, high grade data is obviously, you know, the next generation, I suppose, of data gathering. So, you know, I think that the flyability Elios 1 is a perfect example of that, where, you know, you can fly it into some really tight spaces, and, you know, you can capture, you know, the information about specific points of interest. But I guess, you know, the Elios 2 took that to the next level by being able to, you know, conduct to gather better quality data with the camera not being obstructed by the cage. So that meant that you had visual data available to you from an RGB camera perspective. And then being able to take a LiDAR unit through that same environment and you know, combine the two is just next level. So you can see on the left here, we've got a top left, we've got a silo in the cement industry, we've got a building facade, you've got an indoor stockpile on the bottom left, and then you've got a boiler on the right. Quick one on the building facade. So the Elios 3 is able to be operated outdoors, but you do need to be mindful that the wind resistance of the unit is not particularly high. So you do need to be careful of the operating environments that you're flying in. But one thing with the Elios 2 was that it only used the visual positioning system for stability with its cameras and the lasers. But it's something where with the LiDAR unit on the back, you will see a little bit more stability with the Elios 3, even in outdoor environments that are brightly lit. So I know that some of you are already operating the Elios 2. You may have seen the stability be affected by bright lighting, etc. So that's kind of gone away a little bit, which is pretty nice. Stockpile volume monitoring. So being able to actually operate a drone inside a confined space like this and be able to actually quantify the actual volumes of your stockpiles with good accuracy is again, I think, a bit of a game changer. So I know that we had a few registrations from people who were in the mining sector, etc. So being able to, you know, quantify that information is particularly useful. I think there's also a real potential for, you know, agricultural or chemical environments as well. So in terms of the Elios 3, the previous workflow for the flyability product was that they had the Elios 1. They then obviously improved the unit exponentially in the jump up to the Elios 2. You know, being able to remove the camera from inside the cage completely meant that you had a much better field of view and much better data quality. And with the Elios 3, they've really designed it to essentially be able to grow and adapt within the same product lineup. So rather than Flyability releasing an Elios 4 next year, for example, they're really going to focus on the Elios 3 and improving and bolstering the Elios 3 product offering, so that you can see here that there are 4 mounting screws between the red USB port there and the red camera payload. So that's an example of some mounting points for future modular payloads. There's also a couple just above that heatsink there, next to above the green light, and then obviously there's the LiDAR unit on the back there. So depending on the payloads that are offered by Flyability, you'll be able to use some other pretty impressive pieces of technology to gather better data as well. So you can see that on the back there, you've got the LiDAR port there on the left, but there's also an auxiliary port. So, future state will see some things like, gas detection or non-destructive testing or radiation detection units, etc. So it's pretty exciting that they're going to allow and support those extra products. So you can see here, this is the Elios 3 having a flight into an environment a controlled flight into a surface, just to demonstrate the capability of the unit to handle that shock. Like I said before, the IP44 design is not certified at the moment, but it is designed to comply with that rating. So it's something where I think that the previous generation of Elios 2, I think it might have had an Elios, an IP43 rating perhaps. So it's something where they've improved it slightly more, but yeah, obviously it's not something that you want to submerge. It's not waterproof, but it's nice to know that if it does get a little bit of a splash on it, then you don't have to worry quite so much. Similarly to the Elios 2, where you could flip back over if it did find itself upside down, the Elios 3 does retain that capability, which is pretty convenient. So you obviously lose a little bit of height in the process, but it does mean that if you do have an impact with something that flips you upside down, and the motors don't manage to compensate for it for whatever reason, it does give you that option to right yourself, which is pretty convenient. Again, I've kind of touched on these already a little bit, but for those of you who aren't familiar with the Flyability product prior to today's webinar, it does retain that 4K camera there. So you can see that's the 4K camera sensor there. It's got a distance sensor that's designed to be able to contextualize the imagery that you capture as well. And then there's also a thermal camera, which it looks like the lines disappeared, sorry gang, but that sits just above the distance sensor there. So being able to capture thermal information of an operating environment, so search and rescue, being able to identify things like gas leaks or temperature differences in an operating environment can be quite useful. Friction points, etc. At the moment, I believe that they've stayed with a relatively small non-radiometric sensor at the moment, but I expect that we'll probably see a radiometric sensor come to the table at some point soon as well, which is pretty exciting. The lighting, they've boosted that from, it used to be 10,000 lumens with the Elios 2, and they've now given you an extra capability up to that 16,000 lumens. And they're automatically adjusting as you tilt the camera upwards and downwards. They'll pivot to shine upwards or downwards or forwards as required. And one of the big things with the Elios 3 is that they've brought that camera forward even further, so that you have a completely unobstructed view through 180 degrees, which with the previous Elios 2, you used to have the cage in your field of view a little bit if you look down. So I think that now they've given you an extra 60 or 80 degrees or something like that of field of view, which is pretty impressive. So in terms of the lighting, for those of you again who are familiar with the Elios 2, this will be kind of recognizable for you, but they've still retained that oblique lighting capability, so you can check for pitting, cracks or buildups where you've got that inspection technique is required. And then on the right-hand side there, you might have just seen that the dust-proof lighting allows you to navigate a lot more easily in a dusty environment. So similar to having your high beams on in a foggy morning, if you turn your dust-proof lighting off, it's kind of like dipping your headlights or putting your fog lights on from a navigation perspective. But you do also have still that LiDAR unit, which really helps the capability of the navigation and situational awareness in a space. So in terms of the air time, like I said before, you do see a slight improvement in flight time. So if you're not using the LiDAR unit, you get up to 12.5 minutes. And with a LiDAR unit, you're getting about 9.1 minutes of flight time as a ballpark. You do, of course, need to just be mindful not to, push your flight times too much, because you can damage the batteries if you run them down too low. I guess one thing that we have to, discuss with our clients who are new to the flyability products is that, flight times are something that is often, overvalued, if that makes sense. There's no debate that having the longest flight time in the world would be incredibly valuable, but it's something where flyability's tried to manage that balance of giving enough flight time to be practical in a space, but also allow you to have that ability to fly with the battery, carry the batteries on a passenger aircraft, so they're under 99 watt hours, which is nice. But also the heavier the battery is, the more power it takes to lift it, etc. And so, with them trying to keep that payload capability there, they've just opted for that particular battery size. That it may be something where in future state we do see extra like revised batteries or larger batteries come to the table, but I don't want to speculate on that one too much at the moment. So big difference here, of course, we've got 50 cycles instead of 40, and the similar operating environments to the previous generations, so you've got 0 degrees, flight temperature is about 10 degrees Celsius, and then if you're flying below 10 degrees Celsius, then you need to warm up the batteries beforehand. And you can see here, this is a smart battery. The previous generations were pseudo-smart, I'll call it, but they've really improved the design here so that they are a lot more intelligent. And I can see that Hayden's just asked that question about the number of cycles on the Elios 3, so I hope that answers your question, Hayden. They've also brought out a new generation remote, so some of you may be familiar with the previous generation, the Lightbridge 2 based system. With this one, I believe they've gone with a HearLink remote controller instead, but they've modified heavily. So this is a very customized remote controller. One of the big things that I like is that they have retained that capability of using the original range extender, which is nice. It's a more robust design. I really like the light position switch. So camera and lighting position switch. So on the left-hand side there, the black switch that you can see is the switch for your gimbal position. So what that does is, with the previous generation, it was on a tilt wheel, which kind of recentered itself. But with this one, you have that tangibility of being able to point the lever whichever way you want the camera to face, rather than so that you don't have to look at your remote control quite so much, if that makes sense. They've also brought in a really nice harness design, which isn't pictured here, but they've just got some really nice mounting brackets. So in terms of the inspection capability with the Elios 3, they've gone for a full stack solution. So essentially, you've got the Elios 3 with enhanced visualization. That's combined with the Flyability Cockpit app. So it's a live stream piloting capability with the in-flight app. The Fly Aware is used through the drone and from the drone, and visualize in the cockpit. And then you can also come back to the Inspector 4.0 and view that data that you've captured. So Inspector 4.0 is the Flyability proprietary software, and GeoSLAM is the product that they've used to basically create that to leverage that SLAM capability and really improve that data quality. So quick little comparison here on the Elios 2 versus the Elios 3. So with the mapping side of things, you have the option of visual inertial odometry for a post-processing algorithm. So that's done through Inspector 3.0. And the thing with that is that it's based off the camera, the payload on the front of the unit. With the Elios 3, they've of course gone to a LiDAR solution, which is far more robust. From a surveying perspective, you could do photogrammetry through the Elios 2 data set, or sorry, using the raw data from the Elios 2, but the workflow is a little bit longer and more effort to get that accurate point cloud, and you would need to potentially leverage things like survey points, etc., to get that. Whereas again, using GeoSLAM Connect, you can actually get that plus or minus 2 centimeter accuracy, and And testament to the Inspector 3.0 software, I've seen that it is actually very, very capable, even with the raw data that comes out of the unit. The situational awareness on the Elios 2 again has been improved by, sorry, let me say again, the Elios 3 situational awareness has been vastly improved over the Elios 2 by having that real-time 3D live map viewed on your controller as well. So you can actually see that on your tablet and in flight. Again, they've improved the ease of use, the data localization, and the lighting capabilities there, as well as the flight time. So it's a very, very, it's a massive jump up to the capability of the Elios 3. So this slide here just talks a little bit to the differences between the Inspector 4.0, the intention of the Inspector 4.0 versus the GeoSlam third-party software that you can leverage with the Elios 3. So Inspector 4.0, you see roughly plus or minus 10 centimeter precision and accuracy. You're able to create that report with a localized data, and then you can create 3D models in flight with the FlyAware. You don't need to close the loop, and you don't need to do a global optimization. But if you do want to do that in for the GeoSlam workflow, then that's gives you some extra higher quality data. But yeah. So I've got another poll here for you all quickly, if you don't mind. We just wanted to understand whether your business is using other remote technologies. So if you could just answer that one for us around whether you're already using land-borne robots, waterborne robots, so that's ROVs, autonomous surface vehicles, or autonomous underwater vehicles, or maybe both, or if it's something that you're not using, then you can tick that box. So thanks for answering that one for us, everyone. So we'll just wait for a couple more answers on that one before we close that poll. Awesome, thank you for that one, everyone. So what I might do here is I'll actually jump over and I'll just present some data that we captured in our office here. So I'll just get my colleague Michaela to confirm that she can see my Inspector 4.0 screen here, which you can. So this is a sample data set I captured in the office. So you can see here, I won't play I'll play the video back, but it might be a little bit jerky here. So I'm just going to increase the speed a little bit just to give you a vague idea of the workflow for the Elios 3. So in this instance, I was flying around the space. Apologies for there's a couple of boxes around that I think I blow away, but you can see that this is our office space here in Sydney. And I guess you can see that I'm basically just trying to make sure that the laser scans the complete operating environment. So you can see that I fly down this space here, and don't worry, the office has subsequently been tidied up, so there's none of the debris around the office anymore in case anyone is wanting to pop in. But you can see that essentially, once we've flown in that space, and I'm just going to skip ahead here, so I fly upstairs and into the office environment upstairs. So essentially, once one goes and covers the area, you go back and land roughly in the location that you took off from, with the field of view that you took off from, and then you have the model on the left-hand side here. You're able to see that's being generated in flight. So I can turn on the trajectory here, and you'll be able to see the flight path that I took. You can see that there's a figure of 8, a 360-degree spin here that was done just to calibrate the data a little bit better. But the quality of the model that was created here is quite impressive to me. So you can actually see here, so this is a battery charging locker. So it has a dangerous goods box. And so when I pulled up the specifications for that box online, I was actually able to see that the width was 1.1 meters, and it was 1.3 meters tall. So it's something where you can see here that it might even be something where I've grabbed the point that's just to one side of the measurement. So that's quite an impressive capability. That this is the unrefined plus or minus 10 centimeter accuracy. But yet we're still seeing very, very good quality data. So in terms of the workflow here, you can then also add these points of interest. You can add this 3D view to your points of interest on the right-hand side here. So you can see that, for example, if we go to this red tag, with this one here, I was looking at the red tag here, and you can see that I've added the field of view of going to that point of interest here. And you can actually contextualize the data a lot more. So you can add the different views and things. You can then also add tags, keywords, etc. as you need. So and then from here, you can also click the export a flight report, and that allows you to very quickly and easily take all of these points of interest that you've added and export them into a Word document, which you can then modify and add your own watermarks or whatever as you like. So it's a one-button press mentality there, which is really neat. And then you can also go and export the data for GeoSlam so that you can create a more robust data set in there. So you can refine that data from that 10 centimeters to the plus or minus 2 centimeters that they were referring to. So what I might do, I was going to get Kyle to run through. My colleague Kyle who's based on the West Coast, has this data set on his computer, but I am just mindful of time. So what I might do is I might start to get through some of these questions and answers from everyone, because in terms of the workflow in the GeoSlam software, it's very, very quick and easy. There's a few boxes that you click, and then you can get the data to process. So if anyone has any specific questions about that, I might actually leave that for the moment, and we'll just, if anyone does really want to see that workflow or information about that, then we can certainly have a chat with you about that off the back of the webinar. But I think what we might do now is we might jump into some questions and answers based on what's been asked during the poll. So if you bear with me for one moment, I might just open the questions panel up. So, and if anyone is interested in seeing us, the sample data from that I've shown you from here in the office, I'd be happy to share some sample data with you. So I can see here that Hayden's asked about the number of cycles. So I think that we've answered that one in terms of the 50 cycles. However, it may be something where there may be the option of using those batteries for training purposes or something like that, where maybe you don't have a high risk environment. So in terms of the LiDAR, so I've got one here that says, does the LiDAR scan continue to add to the model flight to flight? And can you add it to build the model as you progress through the job? So thanks for that one, Simon. Essentially, the short answer for you there is that I believe that from a capture perspective, it is on a flight-by-flight basis. If you did want to, go through a different, let's say you had a long tunnel, for example, you just need to make sure that if you flew, say, 100 meters into the tunnel, and then you wanted to come home and you wanted to go and fly the 100 meter to 200 meter section, then you just need to make sure that you'd have enough overlap between flight 1 and flight 2 so that you can merge them in third-party software after the fact. So I hope that answers your question. Someone's commented here on the fire investigation once the IP rating happens. So in terms of the IP rating, we'll keep you posted about how things go with the IP rating and whether that's something that they've got. But I guess just to comment on that one further, it is something where Flyability's done extensive testing with their unit in some pretty hazardous environments and high wear and tear environments, and so it's something where I would definitely be comfortable and confident operating it in that IP44 space, even though it doesn't have that official rating yet, if that makes sense. So I also know that my colleague has flown the Elios in some very tight spaces around water, etc., and very high humidity, and the drone didn't miss a beat. It's been flown through spaces as tight as a meter, like between the surface of the water and the top of the tank, and so You know, it's something where while I wouldn't be advocating for flying it through wet environments, it's something where it's certainly capable of doing that. So someone here has asked about whether whether you can daisy chain the range extenders to increase the range. So I think that my colleague Carl has responded to that one. Thanks for answering that one, Carl. Does anyone have any questions about the Elios 3 or the Flyability Inspector 3.0 data that I've shown you at the moment? It might be something where I can also briefly just show you a test report. So for example, here is an example of the Inspector 3.0 sample report that they've created. So you can see here, this is a Word document that was created from that Inspector 3.0 workflow, which is pretty quick and easy. You can see that it's got the name, the description, the criticality, whether it's an urgent one or if it's something that's not critical. You can add tags. You've got a time of the image, so that's with the timestamp within the flight, and then you've also got the position, the X, Y, and Z, the distance, and the heading relative to your start point. And being able to have these images, these are the screen grabs from the frame exports, I should say, from the Inspector 3.0 software. But if you are capturing those points of interest in real time, then it does capture a good resolution. I think it's a 12 megapixel image. So we've had a question about the price tag, and because there's a lot of complexity to the different packages that are available, what we might do is we'll get you to just register, either ask a question in the chat for a quote or for pricing, and we can pick up a call to kind of discuss which package is going to be most appropriate for you. And then otherwise, you're welcome to talk to your usual contacts that you have here at Sphere if you've dealt with this before, or shoot an email through to the team. So I've got that email address at the end here. So yeah, so if, we'll stick around for another minute or two just to get any last questions that people have. But for those of you who are all questioned out, then please feel free to enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we can keep that conversation going. But I've had one of my colleagues just say, as a very loose ballpark for you on the pricing, I will rip the band-aid off a little bit. It is roughly around that $100,000 mark, including software. It is something where, like I said, it does vary a little bit depending on which different packages you want to go with, and what level of software and automation and everything you need for your project. And again, I guess as well, I think a lot of the value in the product does come from having a LiDAR unit there. But if one was just looking for the extra improvements to the airframe, the extra flight time, the et cetera, then it might be something where you don't necessarily want the LiDAR, and you can certainly upgrade to that down the line if you need or want. But yeah, look, thank you everyone for coming, and to my co-hosts for helping me run the webinar and helping prepare it and everything. But really appreciate everyone's time, and if there's anything you need for any of your remote technologies, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Yeah, we'll be around, and yeah, anything you need, give us a shout.